In September 2016, a small indie game studio named Campo Santo released their first game called Firewatch, and it was an instant success. Some of the biggest YouTubers at the time, like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and PewDiePie, all played the game, although PewDiePie's videos got deleted after the whole bridge thing. I first played Firewatch back in 2020, so 4 years after its initial release, and it instantly became one of my favorite games I had ever played. Firewatch has such an amazing story with incredible voice acting, and because of this, the game has managed to keep being relevant to this day, with newer streamers like Queso just finding out about the game and playing it. In this video, I'm gonna touch on why Firewatch is so amazing and explain the game by giving commentary throughout. And I'm gonna say why it strikes a chord with so many people, including me. I am also going to talk about its ending and why I think it is severely misunderstood. Right from booting up the game, Firewatch sets itself out from other games of its kind. Instead of being greeted by a fancy looking start screen with some fitting music playing in the background, you are greeted with a basic looking start screen with completely bland text and just a fire tower up on like a little cliff. There's also no music playing, just the quiet sound of the wind blowing past and some birds chirping in the background. It starts off so completely unremarkable that you would have no idea about what the game is gonna be like just by looking at that screen. When you then enter into the game, you are greeted by a dark purple screen and some bar sounds playing in the background. Then some text suddenly appears. You see Julia. With nothing else to do, you move your cursor over to the text and click it. This opening is an absolute perfect way to set the tone for the game. It's so sudden and bland, yet it does so much. And the opening track is also absolutely perfect. It conveys so much emotion through just piano, guitar, and background synths. The text tells the story of you, Henry, and your wife Julia, whom you meet in a bar in the beginning. It also switches between text and actual gameplay of you going out into the woods. The text segments work by giving you a bit of text that tells a backstory and then some options on how to respond to the events. This leads the player into believing that their choices will change the progression of the story. Some great examples of this are about whether to beat up a robber or to scare him, and to choose to have kids or not. There's also a lot of less important choices, like choosing between getting a golden retriever, which Julia really wants, or a German shepherd, which you really want to get. And there's also difference in their names. If you decide to get a golden retriever, you'll name it Bucket, and if you decide to get the German shepherd, you'll name it Mayhem. But suddenly, the story takes a drastic shift. The music becomes more emotional as it is revealed that Julia is suffering from early onset dementia at just 41 years old. Her condition only worsens, and the game gives a great example of just how bad it's gotten. She puts you into bed to make love. After 5 minutes, she goes into panic, believing her dad is at the door. You are then presented with a new choice: to put Julia into a full-time care facility or continue taking care of her by yourself. Depending on what you choose here, the story changes slightly, but at the end of the day, it ends up the same. You hang out less with friends, and you start seeing Julia less, since if you pick taking care of her by yourself, her parents take her with them to Australia. Then you see an ad in the paper for a job as a fire lookout, and you take it. Although not much is happening visually during this intro, it delivers so much emotion through just music and text. It also subtly tricks you by giving you choices, because no matter what you pick in the intro, the results end up the same. The burglar runs off no matter if you scare him or beat him up. You don't have kids even if you want to or not. This is something that Firewatch will continue to use throughout the game. You start in the middle of the woods. You hike up a little trail and get to your tower. You go inside the tower and you hear a voice talking to you. You look around and see a radio lying on your table. You grab the radio and answer.
Hello? Whoever this is?
It's Henry, right?
Yeah.
I'm Delilah.
Yeah, that's what the guy said on the phone.
So, what's wrong with you?
Excuse me?
People take this job to get away from something. So, what's wrong?
What's wrong with you?
That's a great idea. Go ahead.
Look, I just hiked for 2 days, so I don't really follow whatever it is you're doing right now.
You take a stab at what's wrong with me.
Fine, then can I sleep forever?
Sure, buddy. Okay, now go ahead.
Okay, you've killed 3 husbands. You're a black widow and you're just out here until the heat dies down and then you'll kill again.
Ooh, very good. Bravo, Henry.
After dealing with her inappropriate drunken questions, you go to sleep. You wake up very late. Delilah doesn't seem to care, however. Delilah gives you a brief tour and instruction on what everything in the tower is and what you are supposed to do with it. During this introduction, you are interrupted by someone lighting fireworks. Delilah tells you to hike to where the fireworks are coming from and confiscate them.
I tracked down that rope. It was right where you said.
Great. So you should be set to get down to the lake.
Hey, there's a snack in here. I'm probably gonna eat it.
You definitely do not want to do that. Whatever's in there has been in there for years. That's how you get food poisoning.
This shale slide is steep. How do you expect me to get down this?
I don't remember it being that bad. It's not even named on our topos.
What about Shitty Boss is gonna get me killed hill? No!
Once you get down there, you'll find this little rock thing. I don't know how to explain this. There's a picture on screen. You get it. And you see this camp. Going into the camp, you realize that the people lighting these fireworks are just one beer away from total organ failure.
Yo, who drinks this much? This is fucking crazy. What the hell?
Anyways, after putting out the campfire and confiscating the fireworks, you see a pair of clothes lying on a rock.
Oh, this shit's about to get interesting. Now I'm intrigued. Now I'm really intrigued. Okay, alright. Here, I didn't think he was. Alright, cool. Can we examine this too? Alright. We're playing as a creep.
You then have to confront the teenage girls. So you obviously yell at them a little and tell them to never do these things again. They'll run off and call you a creep. Or you could do like I did and throw their cereal into the lake and yell that they should kill themselves.
Fucking cool it with the fireworks.
You asshole!
Light another firework and it won't be your stereo Iraq.
Oh, fuck you! Psycho.
Kill yourself!
You can't just harass girls in the woods.
Yeah, I
Out
can.
here.
What are you gonna do about it, huh? I'm about to follow you over there. And trust me, my guy's a pervert.
After confronting them, you hike back to your tower while getting tortured by Delilah's dad jokes.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got a lot of choice in getting struck down.
Especially not with your electric personality.
Ugh.
I see my joke did not spark your sense of humor. What, you're not enjoying our current conversation?
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
After hiking a bit in the canyon, you eventually make it to a cave. You walk inside the cave as it is the only way to get to your tower, at least for now. Inside the cave, it seems to be a lot bigger than what you can actually explore, but it is locked behind a fenced door, and when you ask Delilah about it, she says that some ranger or whatever lost the keys a long time ago, so you probably never get to actually explore the cave. You climb out of the cave and continue your hike up. On the way there, you encounter a strange figure just shining his flashlight at you, making you unable to see his face. He then just wanders off and Delilah jokes about it.
There's some guy out here.
Some guy? Wait, he's looking at you? Is he doing anything else?
I don't think so.
Henry, there's something something someone should have told you about this area.
What is it?
It's outside.
Come on.
The whole thing. And people come and go as they please. It's madness.
After reaching your tower, you notice that your typewriter is lying on the ground. Outside your tower. You obviously realize that something must be wrong, and you quickly run upstairs only to see that your tower has been broken into. Your tower is a mess with stuff scattered everywhere on the ground and the window being broken into. Oh, and they also stole your sheets. Delilah reports the instance, and the day ends. This day perfectly shows the player how the game is gonna continue to play out. You get to experience the game's beauty and humor, but also that sense of unease and mystery. For as much as I love the game, Firewatch really is just a glorified walking simulator. But what makes it so fun is that the story and voice acting keeps you so immersed that you really don't care. The game completely immerses you into the experience, making you feel like you're watching a movie that you can control. In a way, it helps you escape reality. This day starts out with you working at your desk. Delilah calls you and asks you to go check out some phone lines that were supposedly knocked down by a storm. And please don't do like my dumbass who stared at a raccoon picture for 30 minutes instead of going out and checking on the fucking lines.
Since I was robbed, I placed Forrest Burns here, so he'll keep track of the tower while we're gone.
Anyways, on your way to the fire, Delilah forgets to turn off her radio, and we hear her talking to someone, seemingly about us.
Heyo. I don't think so. Why, have you? Okay, good.
Hey, your button is still down.
No, I don't think he has any idea.
Delilah, I can hear you.
I'm absolutely sure.
I said I could... Wait, are you talking about
Would
me?
you? All right. I'll let you know if anything changes in that regard.
The way she talks about it seems odd, like I don't think he has any idea. But if we ask her about it, she just gets upset that we listen to her call and turns off her radio for a bit. She will later apologize for this, but still you don't really get any answers. Once you reach the power lines, you see that they have been deliberately cut down, and the only thing left by the people who did it are some empty beer cans. The same empty beer cans that the girls down by the lake were drinking, and some panties with "Go to Hell" and a picture of Forrest Burns drawn on them. This obviously leads you and Delilah to come to the conclusion that the girls must have been the one who cut down the wire. Delilah tells you to hike back to your tower, and if you see any signs of the girls, you go over there and scare them away. On the way back, you notice a backpack hanging from a tree. After swiping it down, you see it belongs to someone named Brian Goodwin. The backpack is also filled with a disposable camera with 18 photos and ropes so you can continue home. When you report it to Delilah, she reacts to the name Brian Goodwin, telling us that he was a kid who came out here with his dad and was stationed up in Two Forks, the tower that we are currently in. You ask her if they allow kids up there, and she says that you are not actually allowed to bring kids here, but Delilah didn't care. She also mentions that they just vanished halfway through the summer. It's kinda strange, but it's not something that necessarily rings a
Alarm.
at least not for now. Continuing, you see a thin column of smoke and decide to head towards it, thinking it must be the girls. You hike all the way down to a waterfall where you see some cloth hanging from a tree. You go a little bit to your right and you find their camp. But when you're actually going closer, you see that the camp has been completely wrecked by someone or something. The tent is sliced open and there's stuff spread out everywhere. There's also a note from the girls on the tent blaming you for the attack and saying that they're gonna report you to the police. It also claims that you stole their panties, and if you remember, the message telling you to go to hell by the cut wire was written on some panties. This means that somebody else stole those panties and framed the teenagers. You also find your sheets among their stuff, which would mean that they were the ones that broke into your tower. After discussing what might have happened to them, the day ends. You start the day by boarding up your broken window. When you are getting more planks, Delilah asks you what you look like, because she's apparently drawing you.
Now let's see. In my scope, I can only tell you're a white guy wearing shorts.
It's hot. And maybe, by the way, I'm not white. It's not very, PC or whatever they say.
Oh my god, you are the whitest man. Wow. I don't need a spotting scope for that.
Ah,
And
you
if that's
don't need to
shorts,
call
then
me out like
what do you
that. What
normally
the
like to
hell?
wear?
After lying to her about your appearance, she tells you that the real job now begins, which is sitting in the tower and looking for fires. Very fun job. Fun fact, the devs actually went out to real fire lookouts to ask them what it was like working at, fire lookouts. And they all said it was very boring and monotone, which I think is something that they try to encapsulate with those first days of the game where nothing is happening outside of obviously your relationship with Delilah. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of real fire lookout jobs left.
At their heyday, there were about 8,000 fire lookouts in the United States from Maine to California. That was roughly in the 30s and 40s. Nowadays, we've got roughly 300 staffed lookouts, 200 of which are federally staffed between BLM, BIA, and United States Forest Service. And the rest, about 100, would be state and volunteer lookouts.
Most of them have been replaced by, digital stuff and drones and stuff like that. There's really no need for having people actually out there in the forest looking for fires, and they are way more unreliable than just using the methods that we use now, which is why the job is slowly disappearing. But this game kind of gave those jobs a little bit of a revive because people who played the game started getting interested in preserving not only the towers but the jobs and actually working the jobs themselves. And I like when games or movies or whatever media inspires people to actually help and make sure that something that's been a part of something so historically relevant doesn't just get thrown away because there are better stuff, better alternatives. But anyways, after telling her that you're ready for the very long, boring task of just sitting on your fucking ass all day, every day, watching for fires, the day ends. The game makes a pretty major skip here. It skips all the days between day 3 and day 9, and it is the first but not the last time it will be doing this. You spend the day looking at the sunset and talking to Delilah. Delilah says 2 teenage girls went missing, and it is seemingly the same girls you met down at the lake and whose camp had been wrecked. This means you might have been the last person to ever see them. However, you could possibly look bad if you say something about it, considering that you kind of wrecked their stuff and you were not exactly on friendly terms. They might think that you were the ones who attacked their camps and maybe even did some crazy stuff to them. Delilah also realizes this and that she could also look bad for, encouraging you to actually go out and find them and scare them. So she asks if she should mention it to the Forest Service or not. You either tell her not to, or you say she should keep it vague but mention something. Then the day ends.
Henry, wake up.
Delilah wakes you up in the middle of the night. You go over and grab the radio, but instead of Delilah answering, Julia does. You talk briefly, but you quickly go back to sleep. This is the only time you actually get to hear Julia for the entire game.
Hey, you big dumb idiot.
Hi, Jules.
And I think it is mainly put in to remind players of the life that Henry still has going on while all of this is happening, because it's very easy with how immersive the game is to forget about your backstory, your background. In a way, it kind of takes you back to that beginning segment, and you are reminded that you are out here escaping. Nothing really interesting is said during this conversation, however, and the day ends after you say you're gonna go to bed. And we don't get any clarification on if it was a dream or not. This day starts on your way to grab some new supplies to your tower. On your way there, Delilah mentions you called her in the middle of the night 2 weeks ago and were mumbling the name Jules, which is what Henry calls Julia during that conversation. This is giving us clarification that it was a dream, which I think most people realized anyways, but still. Now, depending on the choices you've made previously in the game, this interaction that is about to start plays out a little bit differently. Most people have already mentioned Julia by now and why you're out here to Delilah. But for people who hasn't, this is probably the point where you do. I mean, you can still push it back, but this is mostly the part where people tell her. For those who haven't, of course. If you decide to tell Delilah about Julia or have already told her about her, then Delilah will also explain why she is out here. She tells you that she too went out here to escape. She had this boyfriend Javier, who she describes as being perfect. However, when Javier's brother died, Delilah put her career above her boyfriend and didn't follow Javier to the funeral. Javier told her that it was fine, he'd deal with this on his own, but when he came back, he dumped Delilah. Delilah was heartbroken and felt guilty and did not want to admit to people that she fucked up. And so she lied to her family about it and tells them that Javier fucked her neighbor. Hearing her story, you realize that both Henry and Delilah are out here to escape from their problems. And having someone to talk to about that, who understands it and doesn't shun away the idea, helps. And it helps with the feelings that they're both feeling and overcoming them. Delilah gives the message,
Escaping isn't always something bad.
that statement really feels real here when you realize that, you know what, you're both out here, but you're both fine. It doesn't have to be something bad. It doesn't have to be totally negative. It can be helpful. But anyways, you reach the supply cache and take only your supplies and walk home. Unless you are a piece of shit like me and steal everybody's supplies, because why the fuck not?
They're never gonna know. What the hell happened to the games?
All right, I got everything I need out of here.
Okay.
Time to chow down.
Just yours, right?
Who do you think I am?
Yeah, of course, just mine. What do you mean? Come on.
In which case, you have an extra day, day 34, where Delilah confronts you about it.
Hey, you didn't take all of the supply drop food, did you?
Fuck. No. Oh. Alright.
The day starts out at night, and you're watching a big fire that just started. Delilah asks you to name the fire, and the only right option is, of course, the Flapjack Fire. Named after Delilah's god tier fucking insult that would work against anyone. And definitely, if you ever see a big guy in a bar and he's disrespecting you, disrespecting your friends, he's disrespecting your wife, whatever, your girlfriend, and then you stay still, you don't run. And when he walks up to you with like that look of death in his eyes, he just wants a hug, and you should stay in place and let him approach you, and nothing bad will happen. That's a guarantee. Trust. Delilah asks if you are looking at the fire and says she wishes she was down there with you.
I don't talk to the other lookouts as much as I talk to you. Not in the same way. I know it's probably been a while since you've connected with someone the way we have. I don't mean to get all heavy, but it's been really nice. I wish I was over there.
I wish you were too.
We could sit outside. We could talk without these radios. We could, you know.
What? What could we do?
Guys, I fucked up. I fucked up. Oh.
Yeah, we can assume from that conversation that Henry and Delilah had phone sex. And this marks the point of the game where you have to make a very important decision. You can either try to pursue a romantic relationship with Delilah or try and stay true to your marriage. What is interesting, however, is that the scenario where they have phone sex is avoidable, but it is a bit difficult. The game, no matter your previous options, will try to lead you into making the scenario happen by purposely making the answers leading up to it seem less extreme than they are, and basically tricking you into picking the options that lead into the segment happening. And even if you don't, there will always be an option to start the sequence, even if all your previous answers have been very pushing back on the idea. And the game will continuously throughout it make it more and more harder for you to stay true to your marriage. I think the game really wants you to contemplate this moral dilemma and what direction to go in. Because Henry has been out here for so long now, he clearly doesn't want to think about his sexual life. I mean, he can't stand it. He clearly enjoys being around Delilah a lot and feels like she understands him. And she clearly feels the same way. And I mean, playing the game and even just watching this video, that opening segment that we did, feels like ages ago. Even as you are playing, you are slowly moving on from Henry's problems, and you could argue that Henry might be better off starting fresh. Although it is definitely not fair to her and is a real shitty thing to do, especially since you are still married and she is still alive. So it's understandable that everything with Julia feels so hopeless for him, but at the same time, you can't really do this. It's just an all-around shitty fucking thing to do. You also get some points earlier on into the conversation to start a little bit of a romance. A couple examples of this are that you can name the fire Delilah, and if you look at Delilah's tower when she asks if you are looking at the fire, you will say, "No, I'm looking at you," and she clearly gets flustered. This day starts with you going out to fish. When you get down to Jonesy Lake, you notice a clipboard on a stump. Picking it up, you see that the clipboard contains transcriptions of you and Delilah's conversation. One of the conversations is actually the one you had on day 64, but luckily it doesn't contain your dirty talk, because holy fuck, I would not have wanted to.
Fucking the hell out of me, bro. You are nigga. I'm new, bro.
Henry and Delilah obviously freaks out about it when you suddenly hear a noise. Going to investigate it, you find a small radio lying on the ground.
Will do.
Henry? Are you there? What happened, Henry?
Holy hell, I got hit in the head. Punched or something by someone.
You wake up again, but the clipboard and walkie-talkie are gone. Someone didn't want you to find out more. Henry mentioned seeing the name Wapiti Station before he was knocked out. Delilah has no clue about what Wapiti Station is, but says it might be Wapiti Meadow. So you hike to Wapiti Meadow, only to find a big chain link fence covering the entire area. Delilah is shocked by this, as she hadn't gotten info there was supposed to be anything out there, and says that researchers sometimes fences off small areas, but nothing this big. There's a gate in the fence, but you are unable to open it. Even if you try to hit the lock open with a rock, Henry will just give up. And I mean, I don't understand why he doesn't try more, but he will. Delilah suggests you could get help from the people doing the controlled burn for the flapjack fire, and so you hike down there. For those of you confused about that sentence, a controlled burn is something that firefighters do to keep in a big fire that's just broken out in like a little small area. Basically, what they'll do is they'll have these like cans of some sort of fuel, something very flammable, and they'll burn out like a section of the forest so that hopefully the fire can't spread beyond that part because it's already been burnt. So that's why it's called a controlled burn, because you have done a small area of burning so that the bigger fire won't be able to burn past that, hopefully. Henry suggests that the people listening to them could have tapped the radios, and Delilah strangely seems to think that this is hard to do. It really isn't, and her being a fire lookout for so many years, you'd think she'd know this. Basically, if you're the bad guy, you take your radio, you switch it to the frequency that Delilah and Henry are talking on, and voila, you can hear everything that they're saying. But still, Delilah gets convinced after some time, so, at least that's something. After all that's just happened to you, the hike back is very unnerving, and you start to hear rustling in the bushes, thinking that someone is following you. You start to hear strange noises, and you think that you are constantly being watched or followed. But this is all just a trick. The rustling in the bushes can be heard previously in the game, but you probably didn't even pay attention to it until now. The game does such a great job at making you paranoid. By setting the game in a remote forest with no connection except for one person over radio, you get so paranoid when something like this happens that with no effort, the game still makes you feel uneasy and feel like you could be attacked at any moment. And I like when games are able to do stuff like this, where they don't have to do something outright scary or horrible, but can just through its atmosphere make it so much more worse than it ever would having someone chase you through the fucking woods. And this is not a horror game, but still, the game basically lets your mind run wild with its imagination. And that's the best way to actually make you feel scared. Anyways, while hiking down, you find a small pond with some wrecked snowmobiles in it. Delilah says the place is called Pork Pond, however, it is not marked on your map.
There's an old pond out here, not much more than a pile of mud. Do you have it on your map?
Yeah, I know where you are.
Yeah? Where am I?
Pork Pond. There used to be a sign up for it, but, well, folks kept stealing it.
Because it's called Pork Pond?
It's a good goddamn name. That sign would look great in a den, or, anywhere.
You enter into the scout camp where you find the place where the firefighters were waiting. Unfortunately, they've already left. You also find a paper memo that mentions Wapiti Station. Neither Henry or Delilah knew that this place existed, and they start to speculate that the people at Wapiti Station aren't researching nature, but actually Henry and Delilah. Like a social experiment of what happens when two people are left in complete solitude and can only talk to each other. You find a Pulaski, which is just a firefighter's axe, and this helps you chop down trees to make new paths as well as clear out bushes to open up new trails. You also think you could break open the lock in Wapiti Station with this. While on your way there, your conversation with Delilah is suddenly interrupted.
Are you there? I had a thought.
Let's hear it.
You heard someone in the bushes.
Yeah?
Okay, so let's assume we're being tailed. Or you are, at least. Where are you right now?
Just on my way back, in and out of trees in the middle of nowhere.
Do you see anybody?
No, definitely not.
All right, so tell me what you think of this. Did you just cough?
No. Did you just cough?
No.
Oh,
Fuck.
There isn't any way someone, like another lookout, could be on this line, is there?
No. Not without tapping our radios. Get in your tower, shut the door. Don't leave, and don't use your radio. I'll call you. Understand? I will call you.
This day starts off with Henry calling Delilah wanting her to answer the radio. He has been doing this for quite a while now. Delilah does pick up the radio, however, but something is clearly off. She tells you to look at your floor of the Shoshone poster and hike to a place in your area with the same name as one of the trees on the poster. The tree type is cottonwood and the area is Cottonwood Creek, which is very close to the scout camp you were just at the day before. You head over there and find a big tree. Continuing past it, you find a cache with a brand new radio inside. Delilah says that this should be a clean, untapped radio, which makes no sense, but we'll let it slide. Now you can finally start discussing what the hell has just happened, and you decide to find out what's really going on by breaking into Wapiti Station. If you had previously told Delilah to actually mention that you had seen the teenagers in her report to the Forest Service, she will now let you know she filed a false report saying that you guys heard nothing. So no matter what you told her to do that day, she will just not mention anything. But then she says something that is kind of unnerving. If the people listening to you have transcripts of your entire conversations, they could just show those conversations to the Forest Service and prove that the report that you guys sent in is false, and that they could now frame you for the girl's disappearance. Now even more determined to find out what's really going on, you start walking to Wapiti Station. The walk there isn't really unnerving like the walk to the scout camp was just the day before. However, when walking, something strange happens.
I just heard something.
What is it?
I don't know. It was goddamn terrifying, though.
Well, it could be an elk, or it could be someone trying to get you to radio about a loud noise so they know where you are.
Fuck.
How about you don't do that again?
This is one of the only things, or maybe even the only thing, the game does to genuinely scare you. And it scared the shit out of me the first time it happened. If you then report this down to Delilah, she tells you it could be an elk, or it could be someone's way of finding out where you are. So yeah, that's great. That makes you feel way better. Thank you, Delilah. The audio itself does actually seem to be of an elk, which is scary as fuck. I did not know that elk sounded like that. That freaks me the fuck out. Here's a similar elk sound, so you see what I mean. Sounds almost identical. Anyways, you reach Wapiti Station and are greeted with a mailbox which has a small clipboard inside. Oh yeah, and also a bee flies out and stings you for no reason. After jumping over a rock bridge, you get down to the actual campsite. Down by the campsite there's a bunch of weird machines. Heading inside the tent, you notice a glowing box. Opening it up, you find a wave receiver which replaces your compass from this point on. The wave receiver picks up a signal from inside the tent, and it leads you to a pile of papers on a desk. Moving the papers, you find the tracker making the wave receiver go off and a small report about you and Delilah. Henry, also for no fucking reason, falsely claims that the report contains stuff about Julia he never told Delilah. The report actually contains nothing about Julia other than mentioning that Henry is married, but it doesn't even mention Julia by name. So either the desk decided to change the report late in development and forgot to change the voice lines, or Henry is just so paranoid he turned schizo.
Delilah wonders what the report says about her, and the report says that she is still together with her boyfriend Javier. She says to you that they're just messing with you, and says that you should burn the place down.
You can either agree or not, but either way you decide not to do it. And I mean you, because Delilah is still very much in on the idea until you convince her. Looking around the tent, you can actually see a couple of more things that seem to be related to you, like a clipboard with some initials that could be Henry and Delilah, and then some like stuff saying what they've done, and then also a map that basically has pins and red thread going through it, looking like it's tracking, where you've been walking, which is what Henry also points out that it does. After grabbing what you can, You start hiking back, but when you jump over the stone bridge, it collapses, making you unable to get to the campsite. You look back to the campsite and notice that the campsite has just gone up in flames. You explain to Delilah that you didn't do it, and whoever did it must be trying to get rid of evidence. You report the fire, and the day ends.
This receiver just picked something up.
Or not. You start back at your desk, typing clues on your typewriter and taping them to your wall. Suddenly, your wave receiver gets a new signal. Delilah says you should go check it out while she gets drunk, and then she starts flirting with you.
Ooh, I like it when you think.
So you obviously turn off your radio and hike towards the signal in complete silence. Once you've reached the source of the signal, you clear a gap in the bushes and find a backpack with an alarm that goes off once you grab the backpack. You smash the alarm and find the cave keys in the backpack. You know, those keys that Delilah said were missing. You know, the cave that you've been going through up and down. No, you don't, because I haven't mentioned that you always basically have to go through the cave to get anywhere. But yeah, basically, the cave by your house, I mentioned it before, has a door. You can now open it. Yay! You and Delilah think the people after you must be hiding something in the cave.
Who the hell took them?
And what the hell is in that cave?
Okay, let's just think.
Says the woman with a half a bottle of tequila in her belly.
Maybe they're panicking and we're preparing to beat it. The fire has them spooked, and we have new walkie-talkies, so we have the upper hand.
Yeah, well, it's hard to feel like you have the upper hand when you're standing in the dark in the middle of the woods.
Oh. Well, you're back in your tower. Maybe you need a drink, too.
I'm not in my tower.
I am looking at a man standing in your lookout. And it's not you?
It is not me.
Oh my god, go.
I'm going.
You hurry back to your tower, but the person is gone. The only thing left is a cassette player taped to your door.
Well, let's see what's on it.
Now, no matter if you agree with Delilah to burn down Wapiti Station or not, it doesn't matter, as the tape is always cut together in a way where it makes it seem like you did it. You explain the tape to Delilah and she freaks out, obviously. Then the day ends. This day starts with you leaning against your window, playing the tape on repeat. Delilah tells you that she's gonna be sick and says someone called into the Forest Service claiming to be Henry in Two Forks, saying that Delilah knew what caused the fire. You feel more hopeless than ever before and decide to head down to the cave to find out what's really down there, thinking it could maybe help you not get thrown in jail. Once you've entered the cave, you unlock the door and step inside. After going down a little bit, you hear something slamming behind you. You run back only to find that the door has been slammed shut and you are now locked in the cave. Your radio is also unable to get a signal, so you are truly fucked. Hoping that you can find another exit, you continue further into the cave. There's a stone near the cave entrance that has a crack to place an anchor in, so you can climb down further into the cave. But you don't have one, so you aren't able to do this at this time. You move some rocks with your Pulaski and squeeze through the gap you just made. You continue further and jump over like a little half bridge and can see that the cave really stretches down a long way from where you are. So there's definitely more to explore if you had the equipment. You pass by a hole to the outside that is too small to fit through, but lets sunlight into the cave. On the opposite side of the hole, you find another way down further into the cave, but also on one of the rocks below you lies a shoe. You continue onwards and finally find a way out. You make contact with Delilah again and tell her that you were trapped in the cave. You also say that you didn't find anything but saw that there was more to explore and are gonna go back to the lookout to find anything that could double as an anchor. You start making your way over there, but then come across a makeshift fortress made by Brian Goodwin. You find a bunch of his stuff here and also his old anchors he used when he climbed. He apparently put them here so that Ned wouldn't force him to go climbing with him, as Brian absolutely hated going climbing. One of the drawings actually shows a plan Brian had to get back the backpack that you found earlier on in the game. You know, the one with the ropes and the camera.
You remember that pack I found?
Back on your second day? Yeah.
I found a plan Brian drew about how he was going to get it back.
Oh, I'm sure it was quite elaborate.
It's some Wile E. Coyote stuff, I'll tell you that much. It's a little weird that he'd just leave so much of his stuff out here.
Well, maybe they were in a hurry when they left. Like I said, he wasn't supposed to be out here. It ended up mattering.
There's also a postcard here from Brian to, I guess, his neighbor.
What's it say?
That he's with his dad and sorry he can't mow his lawn this summer.
Oh, gosh.
And also he was worried his dad didn't know when school started. I'd say that's a lucky break if I were him.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Ned didn't really seem like a, with it dad.
He also stole his dad's climbing equipment, his anchors.
That's convenient.
Yeah, it is. I think he was gonna hide them in a cash box or something and never got around to it. I mean, he left a note for a ranger to find them and send them back to him in Nebraska.
Because he hated climbing?
Yeah, it sounds like Ned was pushing him and pretending to lose his anchors was the easiest way to put a stop to it. He'd hide out here to read comics. The Black Band, his grief is his enemy's sorrow. Everyone this guy loves gets killed, so he
It's
honors
kind
them
of
with a
funny.
black armband, which gives
Go
them
ahead,
superpowers.
kill my family. It only makes me
That's
stronger. That's
fucking
crazy.
dark.
Cool folder. Brian was a hell of a doodler.
You grab the anchors and continue back to the cave. On the way there, you and Delilah contemplate if going in is really worth it, but you end up agreeing it is. Because even if it kills you, you feel like you've got to know why someone would go through all this effort to do these things to the both of you. You unlock the cave door once again and head inside. However, nobody slams it shut this time, so that's nice. You stick your anchor into the rock and head down.
Ah, shit. Are you... Oh, God. You're Brian Goodwin. You fell. Your stuff gave out. Oh, you poor fucking kid.
The only thing in the cave was Brian Goodwin. You head out of the cave and tell Delilah.
Hey, D.
There you are. I've been worrying my ass off.
You need to call search and rescue.
What?
There's a body in the cave. It's Brian Goodwin.
Gotta be fucking kidding me. How does that... What? I don't... How?
Climbing, I think, or made to look like a climbing accident.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just what it was. I mean, he was probably exploring the cave and maybe his rope gave out. But whoever locked me in there probably didn't even know about him. I'm sorry, Delilah. I'm so sorry.
He'd be alive if I had told someone he was out here. I don't know where he'd be, but I can assure you it would not be rotting at the bottom of that cave. There's nothing to say. Hike back. I think we're leaving tomorrow anyway.
The day starts with you packing your things. The two fires merged and the smoke is now covering the whole forest. You are soon going to evacuate.
Shouldn't we talk for a sec, about things?
About what?
About how all this stuff is connected. The surveillance, the Goodwins, Brian's death.
Look, I don't know what to say, okay? It's like the universe cooked up the cruelest thing to have happen. Does it connect to everything else? I don't know. I don't know if I even want to.
Of course you do. There's got to be a reason.
Does there?
Maybe. Maybe not. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Well, fuck. For starters, I guess you could find the source of that signal.
You head towards the signal and find a tracking collar, cassette tape, and a rope.
Someone left a rope for me to climb up. I'm down near the lake.
How do you know it's for you?
There's a tracking collar tied to it. Someone was leading me here. And there's another tape.
Oh my god, Henry.
And you know your name is written on the fucking rock. Maybe that's a telling sign, I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping.
With nothing else to do, you then play the tape.
Yeah, hi, Henry. Hey, you better find this before it burns up. We've been causing each other a lot of headaches. Now I gotta go stake out a site that's as fit for living as the one you're about to find. You'll get it when you see it. You can't blame me for keeping an eye on you. Not after bumping into you back in May. Down by the cave, for croc's sake. I've been up here for 3 years. I kept it cozy. Winters are harsh as hell, and I ran out of books. But I got that antenna rigged up, and Delilah, she's a record you don't gotta flip. I kinda get why Brian took to her. About a week ago, I stopped worrying about you finding anything out, and that's right when everything went shithouse with you two. You guys don't know anything about having kids. All right, nobody knows nothing. It ain't Andy and Opie walking down a lake to fish every afternoon. It ain't Mayberry. But you gotta know I didn't kill him. All right, we were climbing. I was teaching him. Brian was uneducated in the way to do anything. He just fucking didn't sink his anchor the right way. I thought about going back, having to answer questions, and having to get him put in the ground, and I didn't see the point. Don't come looking for me. Sorry about your wife.
We found the surveillance operation.
Okay, what does that mean? What is it?
It was Ned Goodwin. He was the one listening to us, just him.
This is the moment where everything you've been trying to figure out this entire game, the entire mystery, everything just crumbles apart. There was no big conspiracy, no crazy science experiment, no one hunting you. It was just Ned the whole time. And he did it just to keep himself entertained. Fucking with you was his way to get entertainment. I mean, he doesn't have TV, he's read all his magazines, he needed to keep himself entertained, as I said. The protagonist all this time was someone who started living out here to escape his problems, just like you. This revelation obviously feels bittersweet. I mean, even though it wasn't realistic in the slightest, you wanted there to be some sort of bigger conspiracy. I mean, having one man just mess with you feels a lot less fulfilling. And I mean, Henry wanted there to be a conspiracy. But instead it was just Ned. Delilah breaks down over her guilt for what happens to Brian. She holds herself responsible for what happened, which she sort of is. She gets interrupted by the helicopters. They are making rounds, but she says she wants to go with them. You probably at this point tell her to stay and wait for you, which she reluctantly agrees to. You make your way over to the emergency cart and pull yourself over the ravine to Delilah's tower. Once there, you start walking towards the tower thinking you'll finally get to see Delilah.
Oh, God, it's a nightmare out there. Hello? Delilah! Damn it.
Delilah has left. No matter what you told her before, she didn't stay and wait for you. You probably feel disappointed at this point, which, what else can you feel? Exploring Delilah's tower, we can find a drawing she did of you earlier, and hey, there's the pork pond sign. You pick up her headphones and ask if anyone is there.
Hi. Yeah, it's me.
You're not here.
No. Don't be mad.
I am.
Well, I couldn't be out there another minute.
Not another minute. Come on.
Henry, how did you feel when you left Boulder to come out here?
Like I couldn't get here fast enough.
Exactly. That's how I felt for the past 24 hours.
Well, I'm still mad.
But you understand.
What's it matter if I do?
Well, I'm sorry anyway. Hey, it shouldn't take long for the helicopter to reach you.
Okay.
There's a debrief in a situation like this. Lots of questions.
Shit. So, taking stock, we found out an old lookout killed his only son and decided to become a lonely hermit.
Yes.
And we prevented one fire?
Basically started another.
Okay, so that's a wash.
I'll have to figure out what I'm doing every summer from now on that isn't this.
You're not coming back?
No. And you'll have to... I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know what's next.
Tell you what, why don't you choose for me and I'll choose for you?
All right, sure. Maybe... Maybe move to Santa Fe. Open a jade emporium with your sister.
I'd be trading cute ski bums for yoga retreat hippies, but maybe that's not all bad.
Plus the margarita situation.
I mean, yeah.
So what about me?
I think you should go to Julia, and then you can figure it out. Maybe put that typewriter to good use. Give me a sexy accent or something if you write about this.
Yeah.
You gotta go see her.
Would you?
Henry, Look, you came out to put your memories behind you, and they're still right there in front of you.
She won't even recognize me, Delilah.
You're not just going for her.
You don't know what it's like.
Bad things happen, okay? And you have to find a way to contain the damage. A good way.
Well, hopefully I can figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, I hope so.
God, this got dark.
Oh shit. Sorry.
There's the helicopter.
Good. They'll land back where you hiked up. Good luck, Henry.
You too. Good luck.
You keep it for yourself. Bye, Hank.
After putting down the headphones, you hear the helicopter pulling in. You step outside and walk up to it. This ending feels bad. It leaves you feeling empty. I mean, you didn't get to actually fulfill anything you had been working towards, but that's the entire point. The game is scary, romantic, dark, deep, funny, mysterious, and beautiful, but it isn't about any of that. The game was never about the mystery. It was never about you and Delilah's relationship. It wasn't even about the good wins. It was about escaping. Firewatch is all about escaping reality. Both Delilah and Henry took this job to get away from life because life was going shit for both of them. And Firewatch knows that video games are similarly a way for people to escape their real life problems, and Firewatch encourages that. It takes you on this crazy ride, immersing you totally with its beautiful voice acting and visuals. I mean, as mentioned before, Delilah during one instance outright says that sometimes it is okay to escape, and escaping isn't always a bad thing. The game is about two broken people trying not to fall apart by fleeing and pretending they're not broken. That's why they're so open with each other, and why Henry is so easily drawn to a romantic relationship with Delilah. He tries to give up his old life and completely forget all about it, but at the end, Delilah is so broken by guilt and realizes that she caused more problems by being out here and feels she has to get away. Not in the same escaping way, but get back home, face her problems. She doesn't want to meet Henry because she feels that that would just be ruining things further for Henry. And after talking to Delilah, Henry also realizes that he can't run from his problems forever. He has to finally face them. And yes, it is disappointing because you've been living this fake life and escaping with Henry the entire game. You want to meet Delilah, Henry wants to meet Delilah, but you can't run from your problems forever. You can't forget that Henry still is married and has a wife back home with dementia. It's a harsh fact you have to face. The ending isn't bad, but it's disappointing, and it's supposed to be. A lot of people miss that. And it's not because they're dumb. The game makes you so immersed with its story and characters, voice acting, and everything that you feel like they ruined the mystery. You tend to forget about a lot of other stuff, and I think that just goes to show how great this game is when it can trick you into thinking that the game was actually all about the mystery, because that's what the characters have been feeling like. You feel like the characters. Not many games can immerse people in that way, and especially not many indie games. It is definitely the best indie game I have ever played. Now, some people still can't, face the fact that this is what the ending is, and there are a lot of fan theories for, potentially different meanings of the ending. I know one of them is that Delilah is in on everything that Ned does. Like, for example, if you go to Wapiti Station, you can actually see Delilah's tower, which would mean that she could have seen the station from her tower. And also the stuff with her not knowing that it's very easy to tap a radio and stuff like that. Feels like she might have been into it, but I honestly just think it's mistakes left by the devs. Like, I don't want to try to make this sound like the devs are perfect and didn't fuck up anything when they made this game. I think they did, and I think those stuff are just parts of that. The whole Henry saying that there's stuff about Julia in the logs that he never told Delilah when there clearly isn't. I think the devs just didn't think about some stuff or forgot to add or leave out some stuff. And that phone call, people have been saying that maybe that was to Ned, but I highly doubt it. I think it was more just to make you more and more paranoid gradually, so that when the big reveal, when you find a clipboard, is made way more mysterious and exciting. The game wants you to feel like you can't entirely trust Delilah either. Now, the ending isn't actually the only ending in the game. When the chopper arrives, if you don't climb in and just wait a couple of minutes, the helicopter leaves without you, stranding you in the forest. The fact that the devs thought about players maybe doing that and making an ending for it is pretty funny. The game also has many hidden details and secrets in it that you can just find if you explore enough or pay attention to your surroundings, and I love that. It makes replaying the story so much more fun as you constantly discover new things about the game. Like if you clear a gap in the bushes, you'll find a dead elk and a little like campsite with the tape of old Shoshone, which, although it's my least favorite OST track, is still like cool that you can just find that out there. And there's this cabin out in the woods which you can stumble upon multiple times throughout the game, but if you go there towards the very end and open the little stove downstairs, a raccoon will jump out and jump scare you.
But what's even cooler is if you go there at earlier points in the game and open the same stove, the raccoon won't be there, so it's only there at the very end, and I like that. That's like just a little detail.
And I mean, Delilah's tower is also filled with Easter eggs, like, the pork pawn sign, which he mentions that people stole it a lot because people like the name, and then turns out she stole it. Also, the fact that the drawing changes basing on the description you gave to Delilah is nice, and it's nice just having the drawing there. I like how the game constantly tricks you and manipulates you into being more immersed, giving you dialogue options, making you think you can actually change the story, and making you think that you have picked the wrong choice after choosing something, when in reality the choices really doesn't matter all that much. They also give you a camera with limited pictures on it, making you think you should take pictures of the evidence to use it in your defense, only to find out when the game ends that the pictures played during the credits and that it actually didn't matter to the story at all, and you can just download the pictures to your computer and that's it. So really, it was your choice on what to snap pictures of. I know my first playthrough, I basically only took pictures of the evidence, so that's what played at the end, and it can be just a bunch of depressing pictures like that and Brian's body, But you could also have, like I had in other playthroughs, just beautiful environment pictures. Of course, the game manipulates you with the mystery too, setting the game in a setting the game in a fire tower in an isolated forest and only having communication via radio with Delilah only is so smart. And as I said, it really sets the atmosphere for the game and making you more easily paranoid and scared, and more easily susceptible to manipulation. It makes you think less rationally about what is going on. When you find out that the conspiracy was just a broken father escaping from his problems, it really makes you realize just how hard the game tricked you. Like, Wapiti Station wasn't more sinister than it is. It's just a research site on nature. The thing they were tracking was probably like a bear or something. It was not you. But through commentary from Henry, it makes it seem like they were tracking you, when they were in fact were just tracking something else. And there really wasn't much notable there except for Ned's documents. But again, the dialogue between Delilah and your paranoia at this point makes it seem like it's way worse than it actually is. It sets up this paranoia immediately by like meeting Ned by the canyon and getting your tower broken into and all that. It sets a little bit of paranoia constantly until the breaking point where you get really paranoid. When you meet Ned, that's obviously right before your tower gets broken into, and a lot of people immediately assumed that the figure must have been behind the break-in, but it really was the girls. It wasn't Ned. I think you can maybe make an argument that it was Ned, but you clearly find your sheets at their campsite, and seeing as Ned himself stole their like sleeping bags from their campsite when he got there, I would assume that he would have stolen your sheets and taken them to his hideout, but instead you find them at the girls. I don't think he planted them there because he needs something to hold him warm. So I genuinely believe it was the girls that broke into your tower. Speaking of, Ned was also probably not responsible for the teenagers' camp being wrecked. It was probably just the bear, as all of the stuff from the teenagers that you see him take seems to have been taken after you had already been there. If you notice, the sleeping bags were still in the tent when you arrived, as well as, the magazines being spread around the camp, which he then later stole. Also, the scary noise that you heard, it was just an elk. And they sound fucking terrifying, but at least that's somewhat comforting afterwards. The game just constantly tricks you into thinking that what's happening is way more than what's actually happening. Your mind makes up more stuff in between, and Henry makes up more stuff in between than what's actually happening on screen. Again, Firewatch is so good at doing all of these things. It is just a fucking perfect game, really. Firewatch shows people that it is okay to escape sometimes, but also shows you that you eventually gotta face your problems, otherwise you will just end up making them worse. You can't escape forever, although it is still okay to escape sometimes. It is a beautiful game and the message is great, and that is why Firewatch means so much to me and many other people. It has beautiful visuals and a beautiful soundtrack that matches the tone of the game perfectly. And in fact, I love this game's soundtrack so much that I have the soundtrack on vinyl. No, really. I think it is a game that will continue to be played and talked about for many years to come. It is games like this that shows that games can make just as compelling stories, narratives, and invoke just as many strong emotions the same way that movies can. And that's why Firewatch is a masterpiece. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, I have 2 other videos out right now at the same time as this video, so you can go watch them. I also have a music channel which I will be posting on very soon. One video in like a couple of days, and then another video when I can. Also, since this is my first video, don't expect everything I make from this point onwards to be like this. This was a very time-consuming process, and I put a lot of effort into this, and I want to make more videos like this about, games that I like. But since they take so much time, I still want to do other stuff in the meantime, and I do like making a bunch of different stuff. I can't be just tied to making one thing. That's why the other videos that you'll see out after this are gonna be completely different. But I will be making more. I'm probably gonna make one on like unpacking or a game like that, and then when I'm ready, I'll start my big project, which is make a video like this on Dredge, which will take a lot more time and a lot more effort because it is a huge game with all its side stories and whatever. Anyways,
Bye.